Joining me now is Darializa Avila Chevalier, who won Democratic primary in New York's 13th congressional district last night. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations off your big win from last night. I do want to start there, though. Some people are calling your win part of a socialist sweep, a leftist tidal wave. But what message do you hope your win sends to the Democratic establishment?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here to talk about this. And, I think what yesterday's win proves is that the wins that we have been building over the last few years, in particular last year's win with the mayoral race, isn't something that happened in a vacuum. It's something that people have been building towards. It's a working class, multiracial coalition that has been building to make sure that we have government that is actually responsive to the needs of people here in New York City, and to make sure that our values are reflected in every single level of government. So I'm so honored to have earned the trust of so many in our district, and I'm so excited to do the work of building with everyone in our district to actually have government that is responsive to their needs.
Do you think that Democratic leadership should be on notice?
I think we have had establishment politics that has really pushed forward a politics of cynicism for far too long. And what yesterday proved is that folks are more interested in a politics of hope, a politics of life, something that will give us a vision for what we're fighting for instead of merely the things that we're against. And so I'm so deeply excited and honored to have built a coalition of folks who have a vision for what we can build towards, a vision that includes using our resources, our tax dollars, towards eradicating childhood poverty, towards investing in our children here at home instead of in bombs abroad. A vision that includes making sure that we are protecting our immigrant communities, abolishing ICE, and winning housing for all in a district where the housing crisis has gotten so just untenable. It's deeply important to me that we are fighting to secure accessible and dignified housing for everybody.
Some of the attacks against you during the campaign focused on your past social media posts in which you called former President Joe Biden a rapist, used an expletive against Kamala Harris. But just looking forward here, in the party that you're trying to build, is there room for Democrats like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris?
There is always room to build coalition. And I think as an organizer, one of the things that is deeply important is to be able to meet people where they're at and make sure that we are moving in the direction that we need to move in to actually deliver for our community. I am someone who has been organizing in broad coalitions my entire adult life as an organizer. And what I do is I bring folks who have very different views on a number of issues and focus on the issue at hand to be able to actually deliver. And I'm excited to do that in the halls of Congress. I'm excited to do that with folks here in New York 13 so we can bring them to the halls of power and have government that not only is reflective of their values, but includes them in that process.
Do you think that big coalition, that big tent party should include maybe some more moderate Democrats as well, who maybe not are sharing the exact views of you and your progressive colleagues?
I think what we've had for too long is a Democratic Party that excludes views like my own and views like those of our movement. And where I see so many have become frustrated and starting to feel that they couldn't identify previously to the Democratic Party is that those values weren't being fought for in the way that we needed them to fight for them. And so I'm excited about being able to do that. I'm excited about the coalition that we're building across the city and across the country of people who are going to fight for working class people who are going to fight to make sure that we win Medicare for all, fight for workers and pass the PRO Act, making sure that we're winning college for all, taxing the rich. Those are the things that the working class people of this country need and deserve. And these are things that need to get passed in order to allow them to lead dignified lives. And so if we had representation that had delivered that, I think we wouldn't be seeing this new wave of folks who are committed to fighting for those things. And I'm so glad that we are participating in that new wave, because it's what is really, really needed right now.
I do want to turn to the issue of Israel. As we've been talking about, it played such a big role in a number of races last night. I want you to also take a listen to what Brad Lander said during his victory speech, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
You can criticize Israel and not be anti-Semitic. You can be an anti-Zionist and not be anti-Semitic. And anti-Semitism, it rises with fascism and with war. And we're amidst both right now. Progressives need to be people who are standing against this, not looking away from it.
Do you believe progressives need to be careful that criticism of Israel doesn't sort of tip into anti-Semitism?
I've always been very clear that that criticism of Israel and anti-Zionism is something that needs to also fight back against anti-Semitism. I have organized with so many Jewish community groups over the years to fight for Palestinian liberation, because those two things are intertwined. Palestinian liberation and the safety of our Jewish neighbors are one and one. We cannot separate those two things. Anywhere that there is hatred in the world is a threat to everyone in our community. And so we need to make sure that we're uprooting it at every turn. And so I'm so deeply honored to have a coalition of organizations and community members who believe the same, who are fighting for Palestinian liberation, who are also recognizing that the far right, which has been engaging in increasing levels of anti-Semitism, are folks that we need to fight back against, because we're seeing a rise in fascism. And that rise in fascism has also been part of the reason that we are seeing a genocide happening in Palestine.
Do you think there's room in the Democratic Party for voters who are pro-Israel but against the Netanyahu government?
Absolutely. Again, I'm someone who is organized with people who have varying opinions on a number of issues. And I think if you are somebody who believes in the dignity of human life, if you are somebody who believes that working class people should be able to benefit from the wealth that they produce in our society and lead dignified lives, then there is space for you in our movement. I welcome everyone into this movement, because I think that we really need to fight for human dignity for everybody. And I am someone who will fight tooth and nail for every single person in my district, because I believe that they deserve representation that will see their humanity and fight for them to have a dignified life.
Let's talk about the Democratic agenda, especially if Democrats retake the House. What do you think should be their day one priority?
Absolutely. There are a number of pieces of legislation that we need to pass, including Block the Bombs, including the Social Security Expansion Act, including the Prescription Drug Care Relief Act, the Ultra Millionaire Tax Act. There is no shortage of things that we need to pass in order to actually deliver for working class people in this country. And I'm so excited to be able to sign on numerous bills on day one to be able to deliver.
And if Democrats do take back the House, would you support Lear Jeffries for Speaker?
So, up until last night, I was very focused on winning this primary, and I'm so excited to have done so. And that's a conversation that I'll be having with my coalition, with my community, to make sure that we are coming to a decision about what is best for the people here of New York 13.
Are there certain conditions or things that you will be looking for?
Yeah, I think I will be looking at what makes most sense in terms of the strategy for how to deliver for New Yorkers.
And you also said, Brad Lander said he will actually support Jeffries for leader. I mean, do you think progressives can be effective at governing if they're not unified amongst themselves?
I think this is just an issue of having the time to actually organize and talk, right? And so Brad and I just won our primaries last night. I'm excited to continue talking with him and building coalition and building consensus among our movement. And that's something that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight.
My last question to you is, there are some Democrats who are on Capitol Hill and said they're worried about whether some of these progressive candidates are going to be team players. Do you anticipate that you will try to be a team player when you come to Capitol Hill?
I'm an organizer, and that is what organizing is. It's about making sure that we are building the coalitions necessary to actually deliver. It's about knowing when you're outnumbered and out-resourced and still having an outsized impact, and using strategy and relationship building and trust building to actually deliver for folks. And so that's what I'm excited to do. And I'm really excited to work with folks who are committed to that same vision.
Darializa Avila Chevalier, thank you so much, and congratulations on your win.
Thanks for having me.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or watch live on our YouTube channel.